Thanks for joining me today. First question, what are the most significant privacy and compliance challenges the industry faces today?
Well, the industry is at a unique point in time where it is becoming a regulated industry. And in that process, there are now close to 20 states that have enacted state privacy laws set to come into effect over the next several years. And there's a distinct possibility that there could be additional states as well. And so, in light of this increased level of regulation, there are practices in the industry that are going to need to change and evolve as well. And usually, this fits into one of two buckets. The first bucket is, how do I, as a company, ensure that my own collection and processing of personal information is done in a manner that's compliant with the law? And then second, how do I engage with my partners in that exercise that involves the disclosure and processing of personal information, whether they be a service provider or a third party? And in that lies challenges, because as data traverses the digital ad industry, there could be many different touch points.
Okay, great. What is the IAB and the industry currently working on to help address these issues?
We have a number of important projects that are very much focused on privacy. The first is the IAB Multi-State Privacy Agreement, what's known as the MSPA. The MSPA is a industry contract with approximately 1,300 signatories and creates a common set of privacy terms amongst the signatories for covered transactions. And in applying those common set of privacy terms, what we're doing is raising the bar around privacy to a highest common denominator, rather than leaving it to individualized negotiations depending on what happens to be a company's particular perspective around privacy. We've also developed, through our Privacy Implementation and Accountability Task Force, the IAB Diligence Platform, which is a new platform that is intended to assist our member companies conduct diligence of one's counterparties by standardizing the diligence questionnaires, using the Safeguard Privacy platform, which creates private instances to load in your responses to the new standardized questions for the industry, and to be able to share them on a one-to-one basis with counterparties.
Okay, Michael, how do you see state privacy compliance evolving over the next several years?
Well, as I mentioned before, we're in the process of becoming a regulated industry. And so that's inevitably going to mean that we're going to need to do more as time evolves. And perhaps the area where I see it evolving the most is going to be in partner accountability. One of the things that you see with the new CPPA rules on potential liability of parties is an expectation that companies are going to be stewards of their data before disclosing it to another party. And by that, I mean, if you look at the language of the CCPA, it says you're not responsible for the wrongdoing of your partner to whom you disclose personal information unless you know or reasonably should know of the wrongdoing. But then you have this CPPA rule that comes in and says, well, but only if you do diligence of them. That is, whether you do diligence of the party to whom you disclose personal information is going to be relevant to whether you become responsible for their wrongdoing. And that's a fundamental change in landscape. And so over time, they created a rule. One should expect that they're going to enforce that rule. And when that happens, that's going to create even additional pressure on the marketplace to put in place guardrails around diligence.
Okay. What advice would you give to publishers and advertisers who want to stay compliant with laws and regulations while still reaching their audience effectively?
Well, our job is to comply with the law, and that is a certainty. But everyone does need to reach their audiences and do so in compliant ways. And so everybody really needs to develop a playbook on how they're going to monetize in a future world where we become A, increasingly regulated, B, where consumers opt out in greater amounts than they do today. And C, also in a world where there's going to be signal loss that's going to happen from decisions and business plans by platforms as opposed to regulators. So all of those dynamics come together. And so I think it becomes really compelling to have a strategy for how to monetize on your first party data. And it also becomes really important to understand what you can do as a company when the consumer does opt out.